Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has resigned from his position as leader of the Conservative Party, triggering a brutal leadership contest to succeed him in Downing Street. After days of increasingly desperate attempts to save his administration in the face of mass resignations and a cabinet revolt, he finally bowed to pressure and stepped down. Or has he? Although his fingerprints are all over the country's constitutional mess, the problems in government run deeper than one man. On today's Channel's Business Global, I'll be examining the collapse of the government with a trio of experts. Kate Osamor, a British Labour and Cooperative Member of Parliament, will be sharing her views. Professor Prem, a sitting member of the UK's House of Lords, will also be joining me. And Thomas Mace Archer-Mills, founder of the British Monarchist Society, will reflect on how this unprecedented week is being perceived around the globe. But first, let's have a look at some of the newspaper headlines here in the UK this morning. The Prime Minister's resignation leads all the national newspapers. Johnson throws in the towel is the headline from today's Times, with the subheadings: Conservative leader steps down, critics urge him to quit immediately as PM, and bitter succession contest begins. On the front page of the Financial Times, Johnson quits defiant to the end. The editorial goes on to say he defended his record and blamed Tory MPs for their eccentric decision to force him from office, the paper reports. And this on the cover of the Daily Telegraph. That's the Prime Minister holding his young son. Amid calls for a caretaker leader to be appointed to avoid months of political uncertainty, the paper says Mr Johnson told his cabinet he would not implement any fresh policies before he was replaced. We'll be looking at more newspaper headlines later on in the show. There's plenty to unpack in the first half of the programme, so let's go straight to our first guest, Kate Osamor, who many of you will be familiar with. She's a British Labour cooperative politician who has served as Member of Parliament for Edmonton since 2015. Kate Osamor, it's such a pleasure to have you on Channel's Business Global. Nobody else in Parliament could address the Nigerian community across the world like you to try and explain what's been happening over the past couple of days. The word unprecedented, I thought that was left with the pandemic, but clearly not. Can you just kind of sum up the kind of toxic, I think that word has been used in the mainstream media this week, environment that has been in Downing Street and around the Palace of Westminster under Prime Minister Boris Johnson's leadership?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you again for inviting me to try to unpack what the world is witnessing as we speak. Where do we start? I think it's really important for everyone to take on board that we're dealing with a Prime Minister who has never hidden who he is. He has for a long time been untrustworthy and corrupt. He has said many things which we will never forgive him for. He has described, Black people, with wide smiles and pickaninnies, and he's referred to Asian women to wear letterboxes or to look like a letterbox when they wear their full, clothing. So we have someone who has already shown and expressed that he's not someone we should trust. But I think it's important to remember people or MPs have upheld him. They have allowed him to get where he is. So he's not there on his own. So let's not just look at the Prime Minister. Let's look at the people around him who have allowed him to break the law and, more importantly, show us that he has no regard for Parliament and no regard for democracy, which is really important, especially when we see across the world that we have many leaders who have no regard for democracy, and we would call them a dictator. But funnily enough, in the West, we don't say that. We need to remember all those families that lost their loved ones during COVID. And we had a Prime Minister that constantly and continually lied in Parliament. Whilst he was having parties, he was not even adhering to his own rules, which we were. So let's just look at him like that. But also let's look, as you rightfully said today, Julia, let's look at how are we in this unprecedented times. I think from what I've read and what we've all seen on social media, that many MPs resigned over Chris Pincher. I think that was that's what broke everyone's back, because they were told that the Prime Minister was not aware of the allegations, sexual harassment allegations. And despite him saying he did not know, we've now found out that he did know, and he still appointed him to a very important role within government, a pastoral position where people, as in MPs, will go to your whip and explain to your whip if you're having an issue, you get support from them. Now, if you have a predator in that department, why would you feel safe? Now you know what you know. So we have someone who basically has no regard for victims of sexual harassment, and which is something which is very, very important. It's not a joke. And this, to me, was his downfall. It just showed his lack of awareness and failing to move aside. Now shows even more so that he's not taking on board that even the people that propped him up can't do it anymore. If you all listen to his resignation speech, he blames the herd. He didn't take no responsibility.
I think a lot of people agree that he didn't take responsibility. Pretty defiant speech yesterday. Was it a resignation speech? We'll have to wait and see. I don't want to say briefly, but I have to because of time, Kate. But what makes you think your party can win the next general election? Lots of personality politics, less policy with Labour at the moment.
Well, what we have to do as a party is we need to convince the country that we are a government in waiting. I think we're all in agreement that the Conservative Party have had 12 years to rule, and we now have a Prime Minister who is basically clinging on for dear life before he will leave. We, as a Labour Party, need to offer the country an alternative. We need to have policies on the table. We cannot, as you rightfully said, Julia, look at policy in a personality way. We need to look at the cost of living crisis. We need to look at where people are struggling. Excuse me. And more importantly, we need to make sure that those people who are struggling now, whether they're in this country, whether they're in Ukraine, that we are a country that is open and welcoming and will not allow anyone to suffer. Those of us with broader shoulders should help those with less broader shoulders. And the story continues. But we must have something on the table. If we don't, then who are we to speak?
But before I let you go, Kate, I don't know if you said this on the record or not, but do you support Sir Keir?
I support the leader. I do support the leader of the party. I think it's important to look at the whole party as a movement, not look at it as an individual. Who do you support? Who don't you support? I am a MP for the Labour Party, and Keir is the leader. So I support him as the leader because I support the whole party. We can't have a fractured party. The country sees that we're fractured. The country will think, well, what is the point of supporting a party that can't see that it's bigger than the country is bigger than just the party. We're all together. We're all in this together. And the sooner we all understand that, the better we'll be. The Conservatives have shown us that because they have allowed one person to lead them, they've actually turned a blind eye to all the indiscretions, and now look where we are. That's a great example of where you don't allow one person to lead everyone. We work together.
Absolutely. I think the presidential style just doesn't work in Britain. Kate Osamor, British Labour Member of Parliament for Edmonton since 2015. Much loved and respected. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We are, of course, staying with this story about the shock resignation of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. And to do this, I'm now being joined by Professor Prem, a sitting member of the UK House of Lords. Lord Seeker, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Why is it wrong for the Prime Minister to stay on until the autumn?
Well, good morning. I don't think he should stay, mainly because he has no confidence of his own party. We have had a tsunami of ministerial resignations, and clearly he lacks support in the country as well. His ratings are minus, so basically the time is up and he needs to go now, not in autumn.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with you in terms of, the issues that are facing millions of people up and down the country. I think the Conservative Party would say more people have been in jobs now than they ever have. These aren't my words. These are the words of Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition Labour Party. He says the Conservative Party and government are rotten to its core. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think the point you made about people in jobs, let's be clear, if somebody works for 1 hour in a week, they are therefore treated as employed. So it does not mean that they're working full time or even half the time. Second is, of course, the government itself has presided over a huge amount of corruption as revealed by the personal protection equipment contracts. They set up special lanes for the donors and friends of the party to get government contracts. And we have an odd situation here that the government clapped the National Health Service workers for their service during COVID. Now it is offering them about 3% pay rise while inflation is over 11%. And hospitals are setting up food banks to help the hard-pressed employees. Now, that just shows you how far or what has happened. But at the other end of the economic spectrum, we have more billionaires than ever before. So again, that has happened because of government policies. So in the UK at the moment, work is taxed at a higher rate. In other words, earned income is taxed at a higher rate than unearned income. That inevitably fuels inequalities and people's anxieties. And that is why the government is rotten to the core.
Before I let you go, Lord, can Sir Keir Starmer win an election? Does he have a mandate?
I think that is an interesting question. I think, let me sort of broaden that just a little bit. I think what Labour Party had been doing is playing personality politics, attacking Boris Johnson, and quite rightly so. But once Johnson is removed from the scene, there is a vacuum. The vacuum is, what exactly are the policies that Labour is going to fight on? Which Conservative laws is it going to reverse? Is it going to redistribute income, wealth? Is it going to bring public services such as gas, water, electricity into public ownership? On those policies, Labour has been fairly silent. And therefore, it's not really directly connecting with the people on the issues that matter to the people. If it were to do so, then its prospects of being elected are that much stronger. So there is, if you like, a bit of advice to Sir Keir and Labour Party from me.
Well, hopefully he's watching. Kate Osamor has been on the show today, so she'll pass on that information for you. Professor Prem, a sitting member of the UK's House of Lords, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go to the break, let's take a look at the global perspective. And to do that, I'm joined by the royal commentator, Thomas Mace Archer-Mills, the founder of the British Monarchist Society. He joins me from Spain. Thomas Mace Archer-Mills, thanks for taking time out of your 6-star luxury holiday. I'm going to ask you a question which I know is a bit personal, but perhaps you can shed some light. Was the Queen and the royal family fond of Boris Johnson, like millions of people were and still are?
Well, good morning. It's really interesting question that you asked there, because I think at times there was a general affection for him and really wanting him to do well. The Queen is always supportive of her prime ministers and wants the best from them. But after we've seen these scandals, especially the partying scandal, when she had to sit in the pew at St. George's Chapel on her own for her own husband's funeral, when he was partying the night before, it's unacceptable. You don't play with the Queen that way. And I think that that was the beginning of the end with her sort of respect and really care for him. It's really unfortunate because as I've been speaking with a lot of the expat community here in Spain, they're very disappointed in what's happened, but a lot of them are very hopeful for what's coming in the future. So we shall see what happens, but the Queen remains the topic of the day, especially when we look at what the Prime Minister has done and how he's affected not only the royal family with his decisions, but the royal calendar.
Thomas Mace Archer-Mills, founder of the British Monarchists Society. Back off to your 6-star luxury villa. Thank you, Thomas.
I'm heading down to my lounger now, lovely. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Let's resume the show by having a look at some more headlines from British newspapers today. At least 11 Tories are considering putting themselves into the leadership race to replace Mr Johnson, the Eye says. The candidates will likely be cut to 2 MPs within 13 days before Conservative Party members vote for the next Prime Minister. Kiss goodbye, declares The Sun, which also leads with a picture of the PM embracing his wife and son after resigning outside of Number 10. The Prime Minister said he was quitting the best job in the world during his speech, the paper reports. The Daily Star's front page features a legacy checklist and a picture of the PM with a red nose. The list includes getting a cute dog, organising parties and nice wallpaper as among Mr Johnson's legacy. Let's move on now, as the world will have to. Last week, Channel's Business Global were invited to the first ever Nigeria Island Trade and Investment Summit. The impressive gathering took place in the capital, Dublin, and spanned the course of 3 days. The summit is intended to further support developmental priorities between Nigeria and Ireland, as well as foster improved private sector-led cross-border transactions and reduce trade deficit between the two nations. This includes areas such as agribusiness, energy, healthcare and infrastructure.
Definitely, this is not one of the usual destinations, but considering that we've had 60 years of relationship with Ireland, we feel that we should also deepen the economic and business relationship between Ireland and Nigeria. We feel that at this moment there's not much of that. I mean, there's not much of investment from Ireland in Nigeria, and also I think the movement from Nigeria to Ireland is not very much there. So we thought we should come and see how we can deepen the relationship of 60 years. Brexit for us in Nigeria is an opportunity. We feel that we've had a very long relationship with the UK, and of course Brexit creates some kind of vacuum which we feel we as Nigeria can fill, and we're really working hard to ensure that we're able to fill that vacuum.
I'm really glad that my department facilitated this. I'm Director of Economic Trade and Investment in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then our Ambassador Ijoma, came up with this idea that Ireland is hosting Highland Africa Economic Forum, and that Nigeria-Ireland Investment Forum should hold back-to-back. And then we facilitated this. Minister of Foreign Affairs could have been here, but he yielded the floor to the Minister of Trade Minister of Trade to take that place. So really it has pulled a lot of crowd, and this is one of the most successful investment forum that we have organized. In this place now we've been able to see the need to review Nigeria-Ireland relations, because having established diplomatic relations for over 60 years, we should be doing more than what we are doing now. So we've been able to see the need for a trade mission urgently. We've been able to also see the need for more political consultations, and more importantly for access for Nigeria's import into Ireland. So these are issues that wouldn't have been there. And it became very clear that if we are able to make it at this time, it's going to be very opportune. So it is a very, very opportune time for this to take place. And you can see from Nigeria, the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, all of them are doing expo, doing their products. And this is really showing that Nigeria has a lot to offer. The Ukraine war has brought a lot of opportunity, and Nigeria is ready to catch on this. And so you have our ministers been here, and you have ministers from Ireland also in the event. So it's not just a Nigerian thing, whereby everyone comes from Nigeria and there is less of the host. We have the counterparts here, we have investors here from Ireland speaking even for Nigeria, so it's not just Guinness, it's not just Jameson speaking about beverage, but we have a lot of them. So this is a successful outing.
They said the small and medium scale size business are the future of the economy, of any economy. And we need that push, because we can actually stay on a level and keep on struggling if we don't get that support. So I'm happy that I'm here on the back of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. And then I had the Minister for Petroleum at my stand talking about downward integration. And I'm really glad, because it helps, to know that if they bring in their support, with the publicity, just like what we have here, helping us to meet with investors and people that can actually export and hold us by the hand, teaching us the ropes, of course, it will really go a long way, and then we can pay it forward. This is one of the easiest countries there's no language barrier. You understand English, I understand English. We just want to strike off trade. I like their culture, I like their lifestyle, and it just works very fast. Honestly, Ireland is it for me.
I think it's a big event, and it's different because Ireland, as part of Europe, probably has a different audience. So I found that people that are here are different from the ones you would normally find in other metropolitan events. So I think there's a lot of farmers here, producers here, so it's a totally different event, which for me is surprising but very impressive as well. Anywhere in the world I go to meet with clients, the first thing they flag is security. So even to get them to visit the country, they flag security. So I think it's a major issue that if we can find a way to dampen down the negative media. I'm not saying it isn't true, but there's a lot of propaganda around it as well that we kind of need to rein in on a little bit. So I think if we can get a handle on security, Nigeria would have a lot more investment, because that's the major hurdle that I find as well. Yesterday that was mentioned that we had so many ties, and I wasn't aware at all. In education, in everything, there's so many ties. Even in the colours, we've got the same green, the same shade of green. And it's interesting. It's my first time in Ireland, and I'm looking forward to doing business with Ireland and seeing where this goes. I think the pace here is different from London. There's, shall I say, a lot less competition, so it's a good place to knuckle down and see what there is. Ireland is very interested in Nigeria, so I think it's about time that handshake is firmed up.
I can assure you this, that we're going to leverage on this. When the Minister of Petroleum spoke, he had a meeting with his counterpart from Ireland. Nigerian side of the story was listened to. As you know, Ireland and Europe is moving from fossil fuel into renewable energy. And this is an area we have a challenge, and he was able to bring it out clearly that we're not just talking about energy transition, we're talking about energy transformation, and that we need to bring in technology to clean up our energy. We're not talking about the environment now, but to be able to make even the gas more useful. And now we're talking about cable energy. Nigeria is going to be useful in terms of that. And so there's a lot of take-home from here, and I'm very sure that investors are going to start running to Nigeria now. Yeah, because we've been able to assure them that the negative media report about security situation in Nigeria is more of perception than reality. Yeah, because an Irish investor spoke right there that, look, I have been from Kano to Port Harcourt to Lagos, and nothing happened. And so when we have some people who express this issue as if the whole of Nigeria is on fire, it's not true. And we need to be very, very careful, the way we push this. There is always security challenge everywhere in the world, in most secured area, in Japan, in US, in London, here in Ireland. And so, and of course, the bigger the head, the bigger the headache. With the size of Nigeria and the kind of composition that we have, you will expect more challenges. But more importantly, Nigerian government is doing a lot about this. You know that wherever you have challenges, it provides opportunity. And so what we are selling here is that, yeah, we agree that we have these challenges, but that is more reason why we need you to fix it. And we are ready to collaborate. And so be rest assured that a lot is going to come out from this forum.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today, but do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global. Goodbye.